Hello, everybody. Welcome. We will begin this meeting. Drew, will you please call roll?
Trustee Barkey,
Here.
Trustee Williams, Trustee Sparks,
Here.
Trustee Shaw,
Here.
Trustee Valdez.
Here. So thank you for that. Dr. Williams is running late, and we're just going to go ahead and start without him. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move to adopt the prior agenda.
There's been a motion. I will second it. And before I forget, I believe for purposes of the Brown Act, when we have a trustee participating remotely, every vote has to be a roll call. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. So Drew, please call the roll.
Trustee Barkey,
I'm sorry.
We're adopting the agenda.
Oh, yes. Aye.
Trustee Sparks,
Yes.
Trustee Shaw,
Yes.
Trustee Valdez.
Yes.
We will proceed to approval of the minutes. Is there a motion regarding the
moved.
minutes? Okay.
Second?
Moved by Trustee Barkey, seconded by Dr. Sparks. Drew, will you please call roll?
Trustee Barkey,
Yes.
Trustee Sparks,
Yes.
Trustee Shaw,
Yes.
Trustee Valdez.
Aye.
Nina, are there any comments related to closed session items?
There are none.
Very well. We will now proceed to closed session to conduct student appeal, hearing the following cases: an inter-district appeal. That. So for the record, after following our inter-district appeals, we will remain in closed session for the litigation as posted on the agenda, and we will aim to reconvene in open session at 5 p.m. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming this evening. I think we will come back into our open session. So thank you all for joining us here this evening. So to lead us off, we are very fortunate this evening to have with us a former state assembly member and a minority leader, Scott Baugh, who will lead us in invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right, since we're going to do the prayer and then the pledge, what I would ask you all to stand. Thank you very much. Let's pray. And I see you, Lisa, up there on the screen. It's all right.
Hey there.
Okay, let's bow our heads and pray, please. Father in heaven, we thank you for the abundant blessings we have as Americans, as American citizens, living in this great country of freedom. We thank you for the freedom of assembly. It's demonstrated here today. And we also acknowledge that the rights we have, the inalienable rights, come from you and not from government. And so we pray for wisdom and prudence and guidance for these trustees as they administer their duties in serving the public. We thank you for their hearts. We thank you for their concern for the community. We ask you to bless this meeting here this evening. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, please join me, a flag up here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman Baugh, for your years of leadership in our county. It's great to see you and have you here. So we will proceed. Oh, good. I was preparing to delay, but it looks like we got that diaper taken care of. So we will proceed to introductions. Go ahead.
If you realize, but last meeting, we actually did our change of the officers, and we elected the Honorable Tim Shaw as our new president and Dr. Lisa Sparks as our vice president. Tonight is the official night when we will swear Tim in. And I want to announce that we have some distinguished guests as a result. We have here Shannon Shaw, Tim's wife, mother of 6 beautiful boys. And I'm sorry, but I do have to read the boys' names off because I don't have them to memory. So let me, Luke, Matthew, Wes, Jason, Wyatt, and Lincoln. We have all of them with us.
Young men, stand up, turn around, and wave to everybody. Aren't they handsome?
And do we have the Honorable Karen Shaw here yet?
She texted me 5:09 was her ETA. Mom is on her way.
Okay,
but-
so in any moment, we will have the Honorable Karen Shaw, who, in case you guys are wondering, that same last name, that is Tim's mother. Hard to believe it. She's so young and beautiful. But we will have Karen here. She is the president of the Lowell School District. So we'll be excited to have her here, and I think we'll take a few photos as soon as she arrives.
Thank you.
Of course.
I like to call them my little tax credits, but it's great to, they don't come very often, but thank you for that, Mary. So
Of course.
why don't we, while we're waiting for Mom, we want to hear from the chairman of the Orange County Board of Supervisors and the supervisor from the 3rd District. We're honored to have Supervisor Dawn Wagner.
And there she is.
Oh, I know Dawn's in a hurry, so go ahead, Dawn.
Well, all right. Thank you, Mr. President, and congratulations to you and to all of your colleagues as well. I appreciate the opportunity to come before you for just a moment and talk about something that I know is on your radar screen, as it has been on the counties, as it has been on the school districts that serve us here in Orange County, and that is the issue of fentanyl. Recently, the Orange County Board of Supervisors passed a resolution calling attention to the fentanyl issue, asking Sacramento for some help, which has been a long time coming and relatively weak, the help we've gotten so far. But I wanted to make sure that you knew about the resolution that we passed. I would urge this board at the appropriate time to adopt a similar resolution real quickly. and again, I know I'm preaching to the choir on the subject, but the issue of fentanyl has taken on a monumental importance of the state of California. Since 2016, we've seen a roughly 2,100, maybe almost 2,200% increase in fentanyl deaths in the state. Orange County, as usual, we're better. We're only a 1,600% increase since 2016 in fentanyl-related deaths. That is appalling and is something that we need to address as a community. We've asked Sacramento for help. We've asked for increased penalties. We've asked for things just like we do with DUI, an advisement. If you kill somebody after having been advised not to drive drunk, there's the possibility of a second-degree murder charge. We've asked for that with fentanyl. If you're a dealer and somebody dies from you dealing fentanyl, how about an advisement? Next time there's a death related to your sales, there is a possibility of a second-degree murder charge. Sacramento said no. So they've left it to the locals to deal with the problem. What we've done at the county is everything possible to raise awareness and put our money where our mouth is, specifically with related to the schools. My office has dedicated $100,000 to each of the school districts, in a total of $100,000 to the school districts to get the Narcan, which is the generic name, the naloxone reversal agent, into the hands of the teachers. Why? Because it's true. Every ambulance out there, every sheriff, every police department, every first responder, fire departments, they've all got naloxone on board. They're not the first responders. Increasingly, we're finding the first responder is the school teacher who finds someone in a bathroom, or a parent, God forbid, who comes home and finds a child, one of theirs, a neighbor, whatever, on a floor in a living room, unresponsive in a bathroom or a bedroom. Those are the first responders, and we're working to get the information out and the reversal agent out. I couldn't be more proud of my board for stepping into this fight in a big way. I want to thank the entire community. We've done town halls. We've done what we can to get that word out. People are hearing it, but a lot more action needs to be taken. And I wanted to, number one, inform you about it. And number two, as you are so close to the schools, as there are so many young people in one way or another under your charge of some responsibility here, to say this is something that we would urge at the county level that you folks think about as well and join us. And I know it's not a heavy lift. I know it's not a big ask, but it is a very, very important step all of us could take. So I wanted to take that moment to come here, tell you what we've done. If anyone has any questions, I am happy to answer them. Again, congratulations, Mr. President. But I know this is a place where the children come first, come foremost, and this is something you know as well as I do is hitting them and hitting them hard. So thank you all for your attention, for your concern for this this growing pandemic, epidemic, et cetera.
Supervisor Wagner, was that statistic 1,600% increase in deaths?
1,600% increase in fentanyl-related deaths since 2016 in the county of Orange.
And that was 200% statewide, but we beat
It was 2,000%,
2,100%.
2,100%
Yeah,
statewide.
2,100%.
Wow.
2,100%, only 1,600.
Well, we really appreciate all the work that you and your county group has done on it. We know how important it is for to protect the kids, so thank you. We really appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll take some action here.
Thank you. Sir.
Supervisor Wagner, first of all, thank you for coming down here, and thank you for your seemingly tireless service to the citizens of Orange County. I do see your social media posts. I truly can't believe how much you are out in the community. At the beginning of your presentation, you asked us to pass a resolution. Do you have a draft? I mean, do you want us to come up with it on our own?
The answer to that question is we have a draft. We have number one that we passed, which we can get to you and you can tailor as appropriate. A number of cities have passed similar resolutions. The answer, Trustee Valdez, is we can absolutely get something into your hands. Make this as
We have
easy
it.
as possible.
We have it?
Yes, it's behind section 3.
Ah,
Yeah,
even
it's right
better.
here. Yes, we have
Good,
it.
Behind it.
good on my staff.
Page 12. Yes, your staff sent it.
All
Yes.
right. Good on them. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor, and I like the public campaign the DEA has. One pill can kill. So I think that's a good message.
That is sadly, with the increasing strength of fentanyl, appalling how easy it is. And I will tell you a quick story. In presenting this to one of the city councils in my district, one of the council members said his sister 3 weeks earlier from that day had been studying for an exam, had taken something, I don't remember, Percocet, Xanax, whatever it was, and it was laced with fentanyl and she died. That's how ubiquitous it is, and that's how deadly the drug is in even the most minute of circumstances. And I know Trustee Williams, as a reserve sheriff, has had training on this and knows probably even more than I do the fact that this is out in our communities and extraordinarily dangerous. I'm glad you have a copy of the resolution, Trustee Bell. Thank you. To the extent we can modify it for you, change it for you, if you have any questions, you know where to find me, please. And thank you. This is a great community. It's often easy and much more fun than being at my desk to get out and enjoy this community and help to the extent we
Terrific.
can.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Sparks, did you have anything to ask Supervisor Wagner?
No, just thank you for your great work and keep it up.
Thank you, Don.
Happy to support.
Pleasure and honor is mine. Thank you all. I
Okay.
appreciate you taking this up.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. With your indulgence, I know we're kind of out of order. Would it be okay if we do the picture and
Yes, please.
we'll get it a lot quieter in here afterwards, so, okay. Be right.
So if the family would come back up for pictures, just stand at the line.
I'll give it.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody. We're going to proceed now to public comments. Before we go to public comments, for those who've come in, we have our decorum policy on the back table that I hope everyone will review. But basically, we're reminding people that during public comments, we would like to be civil and respectful and quiet while speaking and that sort of stuff. And so hopefully we don't, engage in personal insults and those sorts of things. But we've also have a change of moving the podium. We're trying this out here, so this is a little bit new. So to have if you're coming up for public comment, we've kind of positioned the podium over there. But go ahead, Sharkey.
All right, we'll have Bill Masters first, and then I believe it's Joette second.
Good evening. My name is Bill Masters. I'm a resident of the city of Orange. I'd first of all like to thank the board members for their hard work and sometimes thankless job that they have. I'm very thankful that we have them in our community. I'd also like to thank Don Wagner, our Orange County Board of Supervisor. The reason I'm here tonight is I want to talk to some people about this new bill that they have that they're trying to push through. It's not good. It is AB 1078. For those of you that think that you've read it, if you've read it off the internet or you've read it off of TikTok, it is incorrect. Read it, you're going to be very surprised. Some of the stuff that they're asking us to do. Diversity. Okay, I don't know about you, but I was raised with diversity. The media, they like to stretch things all out of proportion and exaggerate the truth. And there is no truth in some of the media that they have out there. The guidance to conversation. They want to control what we say and how we say it. Things like race and gender. And then they're also talking about people that are gay. I started counting the other day. I thought about this. I started counting how many gay friends that I've got, and I stopped at 12. I've got more than that. Do I love my friends? Yes, I do. Do I like their lifestyle? No, and they know it, and they don't share that with me. They're not all flaming and all that. You know, the look at me, look at me, look at me group, okay? When you're looking at them, you're not listening to them. Listening to them, they sound like a bunch of clowns, and it's not good. We are here for our children's education only, okay? And we need to do what's best for the next generation and the generations to come. If they continue with this type of stuff, it's not going to be good. You're not going to recognize your children. The way I was raised by a Marine, 20 years in the Marine Corps. When he said jump, I said, yes, sir, how high? We don't have that anymore. Here's another example of kids that don't follow instructions. I see the yellow light. Kids that don't follow instructions, okay? Look at fireworks just the other day. LA City, or in LA County, banned it. You'd never know it by looking out into the sunset. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Next, we have Joette, and then we have Portia on deck.
My name is Joette. I'm here to speak out against several things that really concern me. We've got 1078 popping up all the time, recommended for porn books, cultural and racial diversity. I've had it up to my neck with cultural and racial diversity. When do the schools get back to teaching reading, writing, arithmetic, history? Those are the important things. Our children are being drugged through this agenda, which it supports everything but our children. It supports gay rights. It supports parental rights being taken away. It supports everything that the teachers board, the things that they support, is not good for our children. It is not what we want. AB 665 saying a 12-year-old can be put in a residential shelter without their parents' consent. Who are these people? These are our children. They do not belong to the schools. They do not belong to the state. They belong to the parents. Children have advocates, and those advocates are the best advocates that they could possibly have. That's their parents. They do not. Parents are supportive of their kids. They're loving of their kids. We want our children with the parents. I'm sick and I'm tired of all of these different factions with all of these different agendas trying to take away from our children. Our children need reading, writing, arithmetic, geometry, geology, history, thank you, everything, everything. They do not need cultural and racial diversity. Our school grades are bad enough without having all of these different factions saying what they want for our children. Our children are there to learn the basics, not the agendas of the gay movement, not the agendas of the school, whatever it is. I'm sorry. I'm so upset. These are our children. They belong to the parents. They belong to their grandparents. They do not belong to gay pride, and they do not belong to anything that has to do with things that take away the rights from the parents. And that's how I feel. Thank you.
Thank you, Joette. Next is Portia, and following Portia will be Patty.
Hello, it's actually Portia.
Oh, sorry,
That's
Portia.
okay, no
I'm so sorry.
problem. No problem. Thank you, board members. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to say. There's a lot of impassioned speaking right before me, and I get it. I think what I want to say is that what we really need is for parents to wake up and understand that the agendas run so deep, even into our academics, even into our history and our science and all the things that we think children need to learn. If parents could go back to being strong parents, not being afraid to parent, then we wouldn't have so many of the issues that we have at the schools. I've been a teacher for 30 years, and I know teachers who now are posting that they are so miserable in their careers because parents are upset with them, because they used to love them. There's no joy in any of the public academics right now because it's so agendized. That's not what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a place where children go to learn. However, all of public schools are about an agenda, unfortunately, that goes back 100 years. We just didn't know it. I was a public school teacher, raised by a public school teacher, and I sent my children to public schools. I didn't know, but exponentially in the past 5 years, we've been really able to see the huge change. It's very interesting. So I just encourage everyone to understand that at some point the system's going to implode. It can't keep going like this. And that when it does, I hope that parents will wake up and join forces with, there are so many good teachers that do it for the right reasons and really do care about kids, and that we can let go of all of the nonsense and just welcome in reason. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Portia. Next, we have Patty, and following Patty, we have Diane.
Hello, board. I'm going to ask that you please speak out against AB 665. It is a bill that will allow healthcare providers, including school counselors, to place a child as young as 12 years old in a residential shelter without the knowledge or consent of the minor's parent or guardian. Board, all of this stuff also stems around gender affirmation. This bill will hurt minority communities. It will definitely hurt the indigenous communities, especially the brown communities and every other community that is migrating here from another country. Most people come here with their own faith, with their own cultural beliefs. Now, what's going to happen when a person migrates to this country and they say that we believe in X, Y, and Z, but not the government here in the state of California is telling them that they have to abide by certain kinds of rules, if not, their children will be taken away. A lot of people in the Hispanic community do not agree with this gender affirmation. So what's going to happen when you have the one family that is having the discussion and tells their child, I will not call you this or that, that child will go to the school, say, I don't want to go home because of this, and that will remove a child from a home. What is going to happen to those families that are thinking that they're going to come into the state of California being a family, but not knowing a bill like this? This bill affects people in a variety of ways. I don't think people see how many different ways this bill can be utilized against families. What about our Muslim communities? They do not believe in this gender affirmation stuff. What's going to happen to their families when their child goes to school and says, at home, they're not accepting me as such and such. I want to go into another place. So now, because the parents have their faith in Islam, their parents will no longer have a choice in anything because their child will say, I am this, therefore I don't want to go home. Or any other excuse. Many children won't understand the fact that if they get in the system, it is going to be harder than hell for them to get out of the system. What's going to happen to the child, a teenager that goes out drinking and says, you know what, I'm scared to go home. I just, don't send me there. I want to be placed somewhere else. And now they're going to be in the system, not knowing that there are legal repercussions to the decision that they decided to make. I'm just asking that you please use your voices against this bill because it will harm more communities than any other bill has done so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Next is Diane.
Good afternoon, President. Good afternoon, trustees. Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me? My name is Wells, and I oppose Assembly Bill 665, titled Minors' Consent to Mental Health Services. Quoting the bill, AB 660 would also align the laws by requiring the professional person treating or counseling the minor to consult with the minor before determining whether involvement of the minor's parent or guardian would be inappropriate. I have never heard of a law that disregards and ignores parents. Who benefits from this law? It's obviously not the child, and it's obviously not the family, nor the parent. Dean Broyles, Chief Counsel for the National Center for Law and Policy, wrote a legal memorandum in strong support of parent rights. In this memorandum, he cites many Supreme Court cases which uphold that parental authority is paramount and is well protected by the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. So I'm going to cite a few cases, and the reason why I do that is because my personal opinion is that in California, we are living through a social experiment as parents, and so it will take lawfare to defeat this. In 1979, in the case Parham v. Jr., the Supreme Court stated the law's concept of the family rests on a presumption that parents possess what a child lacks in maturity, experience, and capacity for judgment required for making life's decisions, difficult decisions. More important, historically, it has been recognized that natural bonds of affection lead parents to act in the interest of our children. Broyles continues to say that mothers and fathers, not the state, are in a much better position to authentically love, know, understand, and make better informed decisions on behalf of children in their custody, care, and control. We know our children. Broyles also cites the Supreme Court case West Virginia versus Barnett, West Virginia versus Barnett of 1943, in which the Supreme Court ruled that the state, including our public schools, state legislators, and educators, must educate, not indoctrinate. They must be both mindful and careful to not question, not to undermine, not to to attack, to not supplant or strive to replace the sincerely held philosophical and religious beliefs of families whose students they serve. This binds the child, the parent, and the family bonds. Parents are not the enemy. They are the primary ally in their child's education and upbringing. I ask the board to advocate Orange County families to oppose AB 665. Thank you.
Diane. That's the end of public comment.
Oh, I thought we had, excuse me. Thank you for your comments this evening. Okay, I believe we will now, are we going to report out from closed session, Mr. Rowland?
Mr. President, congratulations. On the closed session from July 5, 2023, excuse my voice, there was a closed session on closed session item 1. The board did not receive any information from council. As to closed session items numeral number 2 through number 4, the board received a report from council and no action was taken. On closed session item number 5, the board received a report from council. No action was taken other than the approval of Nielsen Merximer invoices. Deputy Superintendent, are you ready for the invoices and the dates?
I am.
October 11, 2022, invoice number 248252. January 12, 2023, invoice number 252111. February 14, 2023, invoice number 253629. March 9, 2023, invoice number 254789. April 12, 2023, invoice number 256286. May 11, 2023, invoice number 257902. And June 9, 2023, invoice number 259175. The bills were approved by a vote of 4-0. Trustees Valdez, Shaw, Williams, and Barkey voting in the affirmative, and Vice President Sparks was unable to vote due to technical difficulties. And that's the report out from closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Rowland. So we will proceed now to the consent calendar, which is only item number 4.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. And before, don't let anyone, I can't forget this, because of the Brown Act, we have Dr. Sparks participating remotely. Every vote needs to be a roll call vote. So Drew, please call roll.
Trustee Barkey,
Yes.
Trustee Williams,
Aye.
Trustee Shaw,
Yes.
Trustee Valdez,
Aye.
Trustee Sparks.
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 5, charter submissions. Nina, are there any charter submissions this evening?
There are none.
Very good. So we will proceed to number 6, general counsel litigation comment. Dr. Williams, would you like to
Yes,
introduce this item?
President Shaw, at our last June meeting, the first week, there were some concerns regarding public comments that were made, and because the record was unclear about this in the minds of many of our constituents, I asked for at that time during the meeting to have general counsel come up and comment about attorney's fees. And Mr. Rowland, who has been advising us as our board counsel for the past 4 to 5 years. So I asked Mr. Brenner if he would prepare some remarks and correct the record and help us understand how we got here. Mr. Brenner, will you please take the podium here?
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, and Dr. Sparks from overseas. Good to be with you all tonight. As Trustee Williams indicated, some comments have been requested regarding the reasons for the board's retention of Mr. Rowland as effectively its general counsel, and a summary or a reminder of the road taken to get here, and that's what I intend to do at this time. As Trustee Williams indicated as well, this is in response in part to public comments that have been made at past meetings in this calendar year, several of them, to suggest and call into question that the board's use of Mr. Rowland and advice and general counsel fees in that regard might not be appropriate. A suggestion as well that paying for a general counsel service through Mr. Rowland is unreasonable. A suggestion that Mr. Rowland's fees are excessive. A suggestion as well that the board is not doing adequate oversight of those fees. In my view, each of these suggestions is baseless. There is no analysis provided with them whatsoever. There's no examples provided as to what work, if any, has been excessive or excessively billed or has been billed and hasn't been done. No comparison to other legal fees that have been incurred by the board or by the superintendent for that matter, or the cost of legal fees through in-house sources as well. But just as importantly, there's no context provided for these assertions, at least as far as I have been able to see in reviewing those public comments that have been made. Critical context and history has been omitted, and I intend to provide that for everyone here tonight at your request. The suggestion of these prior assertions tacitly in omitting the context for why the board is advised by Mr. Rowland in an effective general counsel type capacity is to raise the implication that the board is doing this on its own, that it's essentially decided to retain Mr. Rowland and take advice from him out of thin air. And that is just not true. The retention of Mr. Rowland for legal services by the board is pursuant to an agreement between the superintendent, Dr. Alma Harris, and the board. That's right. It is pursuant to an agreement that was signed on February 22, 2021, and that agreement is a matter of public record. The superintendent gave that agreement while staring down the barrel of a tentative verdict stated on the record by the Orange County Superior Court following a months-long bench trial over the issue of whether the superintendent violated California law when he appointed Jeffrey Riel as the general counsel, both for himself and for the board, without the board's approval. Now, for years, as Trustee Williams knows, Trustee Williams had asked the superintendent not to appoint a general counsel without the board's involvement and approval. In fact, that's clearly required under the law. California Education Code 35041.5 states, quote, "The County Board of Education and the Superintendent of Schools of the same county shall appoint the same legal counsel." Shall appoint. But the superintendent didn't co-appoint Mr. Riel with the board's approval. Instead, he went ahead and appointed him himself. And he insisted that the board be advised by Mr. Riel as its legal advisor, its trusted legal advisor. Even today, it's not clear why Dr. Maharis did that. But perhaps it was because he didn't think the board would approve Mr. Riel. After all, Mr. Riel was, at the time of his appointment by Dr. Maharis, the senior in-house counsel for the Anaheim Union High School District, which at that time was suing the board for its decision to approve a charter school in the Anaheim Union District. You heard that right. Dr. Maharis hired as the board's new general counsel the senior lawyer of a school district that was, at the time, suing the board. Not surprisingly, the board objected to having Mr. Riel serve as its lawyer, and while asserting this objection, the board attempted to retain other legal counsel, a local Orange County Education Council, to provide temporary services due to conflicts with Mr. Riel, and while these issues about the conflicts were being resolved. In response to that, the superintendent then threatened that local counsel with reprisal in the form of non-payment of her fees if she provided any counsel to the board. And he did so through surrogates. He had Mr. Riel and another staff person do the dirty work of making those calls to that local counsel, which she took as threatening. Not surprisingly, being a local Orange County education lawyer, and reliant, or at least hopeful to some degree, on the superintendent for future work on department matters, she informed the board that she would not provide counsel services to it. This forced the board to look for other counsel, and it did so, this time outside of Orange County. That would mean counsel who would be less likely to be subject to intimidation and threatening tactics. That individual was Mr. Greg Rowland, who was located in Northern California, not in Orange County. The board hired Mr. Rowland, but not before the superintendent threatened him and his law firm in the same way that he had tried to do and did successfully with the local Orange County lawyer. Thankfully, the intimidation tactic didn't work with Mr. Rowland, and he began to advise the board, although Dr. Maharis held up payment to Mr. Rowland for many, many months. And he only paid Mr. Rowland once the court ordered him in an extraordinary provisional injunctive order to pay his bills. And then after that, only once the agreement that I referred to later, the settlement agreement, was signed. The case over this issue of whether the superintendent had violated the law in appointing a general counsel without the board's co-approval was litigated and tried to the court. As noted, at the end of a months-long bench trial, which occurred during the COVID pandemic, the court stated its tentative verdict from the bench. The tentative verdict, recited on the record on February 9, 2021, was completely in the board's favor. The tentative made clear that the court tentatively intended to hold that Education Code Section 35041.5 confer co-equal authority to the board to appoint the general counsel, and that it required that the superintendent work together with the board to select and co-appoint that lawyer. The court also made it clear that it tentatively intended to hold that the board was justified in retaining Mr. Rowland in light of the conflicts with and conduct of Dr. Maharis and Mr. Riel, and that Mr. Rowland had to be paid for his services. These are a few of the verbatim words taken from the court's tentative verdict that day, and I do read them word for word because they're important, and they explain, I think, completely why the board is advised by Mr. Rowland today and has been since this issue arose. Quote, "So it is my intention and my statement of intended decision that Superintendent Maharis violated Education Code 35041.5 when he hired Mr. Riel without the prior approval of the board." And again, this is the court from the bench. So but all I am saying is it appears there was a violation. It appears from the evidence that Dr. Maharis knew the board wanted to be involved and felt that they had a right to be involved, and he told them they would be involved, and then he didn't involve them. And that does not comport with the requirements of the law. End quote. Quote, "There's sufficient evidence to indicate that Dr. Maharis has used his authority to hire Mr. Riel. The actions that have been taken to not pay Mr. Rowland have had serious consequences, not only to the board, the party here, but to Mr. Rowland and his law firm. So it appears that it's retribution to the board for suing, retribution to the board for picking out a lawyer." End quote. Quote, "But as soon as Mr. Riel had this issue presented to him and he chooses one client over the other because he's the lawyer for both the board and the superintendent, that conflict is concrete. But then he compounded that issue by calling the board's would-be lawyer and telling her that the superintendent would be disappointed if she presented the Board of Education. So here he's taken another position contrary to his own client, the Board of Education." End quote. Quote, "So it appears to me the board was right in picking their own counsel because they have a right to a lawyer they can trust." And three more quotes for you from the bench on that day in February. "I'm sure it would have been difficult for Mr. Riel coming on the job the first day to tell his boss on the first day, 'Hey, I can't help you with that one. That'd be a conflict. And 4 big issues came up where there's a conflict. But he didn't say there is a conflict and say, I can't give you advice. You have to get somebody else, Mr. Superintendent. He sided with the superintendent, end quote. Quote, it's a question of a lawyer who's the lawyer for the board under the statute has taken so many conflicting positions to the board that they'd be foolish to trust him, end quote. And the final quote. But this became personal. This is where Mr. Riel went to the board's chosen lawyer and said, don't represent them. Where Mr. Riel took the position of the superintendent against the board on the budget issue and actually tried to get it continued. It's not that there was a conflict issue that was resolved, it's that there's been an ongoing conflict. For every single intersection, Mr. Riel turned toward Dr. Maharis and away from the board, and in fact took positions contrary to the board's position. So my tentative finding is that there is been an irreconcilable difference of opinion and conflict of interest where Mr. Riel lost their trust. And in fact, I think any board would be foolish to have a lawyer giving them advice when the lawyer has clearly taken adverse positions to them, end quote. Now, the very next day that this tentative verdict was read out onto the record, Dr. Maharis took the extraordinary step of making a settlement offer to the board in open court. And I can tell you, from my 30+ years of experience litigating, that very rarely ever happens. It was a first for me. A final settlement between the parties was reached, that is, between the board and Dr. Maharis, was reached 12 days later on February 22, 2021. That settlement makes explicit that the board can use other counsel for as long as the superintendent employs Mr. Riel, and the board considers it to have a conflict with Mr. Riel, which of course it unquestionably does. Indeed, in addition to all of this history that I've just summarized, and it's just a summary, there's much more detail where that came from. Mr. Riel is advising a counterparty in litigation right now, as we sit here today, adverse to the board, as you all know, and as the public knows. So that is why the board has retained Mr. Rowland, and that's why it continues to do so. Obviously, just as it is for any other client, it is critically important for the board to be advised by counsel it trusts, by counsel in whom it can confide, by counsel in whom it has confidence, and by counsel with whom it does not have a conflict of interest. And the court noted, not just once, but twice, that the board would be foolish to do anything else. And with that, I'll close and ask if the board has any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Brenner, for that update. Dr. Williams, did you have any further comments?
No, I've forgotten a lot of the details. Thank you for bringing me up to date, and hopefully that helps the public in understanding our current situation and it corrects the record.
Anyone else on the board? Dr. Sparks? You're still, okay. All right, we'll see no other comments for item 6. We'll proceed to item number 7. There is a correction to this item. Do you want to read that, Nina?
Yes. The membership dues of $6,600 is incorrect. We received an invoice today, and the correct membership dues are $7,524. So we wanted to make sure before you did that you'd have the proper amount.
Very good, thank you. Do I hear a motion then on approving item number 7?
I'll make a motion to approve item number 7.
Second.
Thank you. Drew, please call roll.
No, there's a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. You had a question. Dr. Williams.
Right. So was that $6,600 for last year?
Yes.
Okay, so they raised the fee almost $1,000. It was under my thoughts that an understanding that we couldn't be a member of the county, the State County Board of Education unless we're a member of the California School Boards Association. Did that change?
No, that's correct. But the organization, the Department of Ed, is a member of the School Boards Association. So you can be a member of CCBE because of the membership that the department holds.
Okay, so the department purchased the membership for the California School Boards Association, right? The CSBA. How much is that?
The membership dues are for next year, this fiscal year, $12,477.
Okay. Okay. And then because the department is a member of CSBA, we can join the county board. Okay. That was what I thought. I just want to confirm it. And just for the record, Mr. President, we had in the past, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Trustee Barkey, we said we didn't want to be a member of the CSBA. We only wanted to be a member of the county, California State County Boards Association.
Yeah, we did state that, but it was not a possibility. So we had given everything up, but then we found out that the department joined, and so they said that we could join. What you can't do is just join CCBE without CSBA.
Got it. Okay, good. That's all my questions, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any other questions from anyone? No. Okay, Drew?
Trustee Barkey?
Yes.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Shaw?
Yes.
Trustee Valdez?
Yes.
Trustee Sparks?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 8, approve disbursement of funds for Orange County Board of Education professional organization membership dues in the amount of $250 for Orange County School Boards Association.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Motion by Trustee Barkey, second by Dr. Williams. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Trustee Valdez.
Didn't we just say we didn't want to be part of the OCSBA?
This is different. This is the Orange County chapter. It's $250 to be in the know of what's going on in Orange County, if I'm correct. Is that?
That's correct. The previous one was the state organization. This is the county organization.
Okay. Any other questions? Drew, please call roll.
Trustee Barkey?
Yes.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Shaw?
Yes.
Trustee Valdez?
Yes.
Trustee Sparks?
Yes.
Item number 9, approve disbursement of funds for Orange County Board of Education professional organization membership dues in the amount of $50 for PTA 2023 to 24 fiscal year.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Yes, just because it's been some time, this is the county chapter of the PTA?
Correct.
Okay. And do they have their own bank account, and are they off-site of our department? In other words, are they independent?
Yes, it's the 4th District PTA.
It's a 4th District PTA, so they have a whole separate bank account, and the check actually gets sent to them, and they deposit it. Okay.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? Drew, please call roll.
Who was the second on that?
Oh, Dr. Williams.
Thank you.
Trustee Barkey?
Yes.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Shaw?
Yes.
Trustee Valdez?
Yes.
Trustee Sparks?
Yes.
Item 10, approve registration and travel for board members to attend education-related events and meetings sponsored by California School Boards Association and California County Boards of Education, effective July 1st, 2023 for the 2023-24 fiscal year.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Moved by Trustee Barkey, seconded by Trustee Williams. Questions or comments? Dr. Williams?
So just for the record, this is what we have traditionally been doing for many, many years, approving the future travel that we will be incurring, but we do not know specifically that travel and those conferences and how much at this time. And we typically will, at that moment when the travel occurs, we do approve it a second time.
Correct.
Good.
This is blanket travel, and then once we have information, if board members are interested in participating, then we put together the estimate of what those costs would be, and that would come back before the board.
Good, thank you. Just helping you out there, George, how we do things.
All right, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Drew, please call.
Trustee Barkey?
Yes.
Trustee Williams? Trustee Shaw?
Yes.
Trustee Valdez?
Yes.
Trustee Sparks?
Yes.
Item number 11, approve registration and travel for board members to attend education-related events and meetings sponsored by the California Charter Schools Association effective July 1st, 2023 for the 2023 to 24 fiscal year.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Moved by Barkey, seconded by Williams. Questions or comments? Dr. Williams?
Yes, again, for the record, Nina, this is again under the same premise for the last item. This is for the future meetings and registration travel.
That would be correct.
Same kind of deal. Okay, Drew, please call the roll.
Trustee Barkey?
Yes.
Trustee Williams?
Yes.
Trustee Shaw?
Yes.
Trustee Valdez?
Yes.
Trustee Sparks?
Yes.
Thank you. Item 12, approve registration and travel for board members to attend education-related events and meetings sponsored by the Orange County School Boards Association, OCSBA, effective July 1st, 2023, for the 2023 to 24 fiscal year.
And President
miss one?
Shaw,
Oh.
we have an item number 12, public comment.
Very good, thank you.
So do we do it now before we open the motion? Okay.
Sure.
All right, it is for Julie. Oh, right there, thank you.
Well, first of all, I want to let you know I support having you attend these meetings so that you can represent us, and most specifically to represent us for bills such as 665. And, you know, right now there's a lot of effort, and you're doing the effort too, for inclusiveness. And I feel that this, kind of in a draconian way, is excluding parents. So I hope that you, respect a lot. I think I speak for a lot of my friends that this should be evaluated, and that would be a really good opportunity at some of these meetings when you're with your constituents to find a way to protect the children, but also to protect parental rights and to include them in these situations because we love our kids. Thank you.
All right. Do I hear a motion for item 12?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, moved by Barkey, second by Williams. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Drew, please call roll.
Trustee Barkey?
Yes.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Shaw?
Aye.
Trustee Valdez?
Yes.
Trustee Sparks?
Yes.
Item 13, approve registration and travel for board members to attend education-related event meetings sponsored by the National Alliance for Public Charter Schools, effective July 1st, 23 for the 2023 to 24 fiscal year.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Barkey, second by Williams. Any questions or comments? Dr. Williams?
Help my memory. Did we attend any, did any board members attend any of the conferences last year for the National Alliance of Public Charter Schools?
I don't think so.
For last year.
We did last year, okay. Is this the first time that we've,
No, I believe this would
This
be
was
the,
on last year.
this was on last year, but we didn't go anywhere?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, is that all?
That's it.
Okay.
Trustee Barkey?
Yes.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Shaw?
Aye.
Trustee Valdez?
Yes.
Trustee Sparks?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 14, approve board conference attendance cash advance of 2023 to 24 fiscal year.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Moved by Barkey, second by Williams. Any questions or comments?
Yes.
Dr. Williams?
Just for the record, for clarification for the board, Could you go over our policy on cash advances and how it's done optimally?
Yes. So the board would follow the same department policy for employees that we have for travel advances. And if any board member wanted the department to extend a cash advance, we would again come up with the estimate of travel related costs. We have a department credit card that we could put hotel and different things on so that those are not out of pocket for any individual board member. And then dentals are estimated, so cost of dinners and that type of thing, and give that to the board member in advance. They would be responsible for returning receipts to add up to the amount, and if there was an overage, we would reimburse them for that. If there was an underage, they would reimburse the department for any monies that they did not spend.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Questions or comments? Seeing none, Drew, please call roll.
Trustee Barkey?
Yes.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Shaw?
Aye.
Trustee Valdez?
Yes.
Trustee Sparks?
Yes.
Thank you. On to item number 16, nominate and approve board member assignments for the 2023 to 24 fiscal year.
I will make the
Oh, did I
motion.
skip one?
Skipped 15.
Sorry. Thank you for that, George. Forgive me. Item 15, we'll go to first. Approve travel and name new representative for CCBE Board of Directors and Delegate Assembly.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, so,
We have a second?
Just do a second, then discuss.
Okay.
okay, second. To bring it on the table to discuss. Gotcha. Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead, Dr. Williams.
Okay, so my idea and thought of this, it's a very important position. And I would like to nominate the good George Valdez as our
I
representative.
will second that. Have to do it before I get nominated.
Yeah, he wasn't aware of this, but George, with that is an honorable task and role, and it's quite a very important role. As each year, the county boards, we meet and you would represent us, and it's a
And
very
because-
valuable experience.
Because we're so large, we actually get a seat on CSBA as well that comes with that. I had that explained to me, so you would be representing us there.
I think that's a terrific idea. So, do I have any other nominations?
Seeing none.
Seeing none. Drew, please call the roll.
Trustee Barkey?
Aye.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Shaw?
Aye.
Trustee Valdez?
I suppose I don't have a choice, so I'll just say aye.
Trustee Sparks?
Yes.
So is that a yes then, George?
It is.
Okay.
Normally, we would have nominated the person that's not in the room, but she's watching, so we can't nominate these.
I'm still on the EC, so I can't.
All right, let's go to number 16 now. Nominate and approve board member assignments for the 2023 to 24 fiscal year.
I'll make a motion.
And I'll second that and begin the discussion. So
All right.
typically, the actual board assignments that will be assigning takes place in August. Nina, please tell me if that's been changed by the EC, but typically we begin the final assignment in August.
Well, they were
And talk
always
about
done
it today.
in July, and then the last number of years, you all have deferred it to August while you all looked at the positions and so forth. But
And you just did
if
it
you
at
go-
number 15.
I was going to say, if you go to page 27, you will see that
The only one that is.
there's only, I mean, the delegate assembly you just did, because that's going to be George.
And you just did it.
Right.
And he was the representative last year for OCSBA. So it's really OCSBA and the PTA liaison that you, so if there's a reason that you need to defer that to August, it can certainly be carried over. Or if you all know now, then you can do it this meeting. It's really up to the board.
So for that last box was, we just put George in that position.
Yes.
So then the only one we're missing is PTA liaison?
PTA liaison and the Orange County School Board Association liaison.
Well, Dr. Williams was our PTA liaison this last year. Would you like to do it again?
Sure, why not?
I nominate Dr. Williams for that one, so.
I second.
Okay. Do we have any takers on the, God, I get these acronyms so goofed up. Sorry. OCSBA, did I get that right?
Yes.
I nominate Dr. Sparks.
I'll second.
I decline because I'm going to be serving on the EC as vice president, but thank you so much.
She can't do both?
No.
Oh,
Well, she knows her schedule. So these are dinner meetings typically and late afternoon.
Mary, you want it?
Not especially. I mean, if nobody will do it, I'll take it, but I have a very busy schedule too, and it is quite a few meetings. I think maybe Dr. Williams, would you like that one as well?
I will defer.
President Shaw and Trustee Valdez were at most of these last year, even though the
Yeah.
representative was George.
I'll nominate myself then. I'll be happy to try to go.
I'll cover for you if you have a
Okay.
conflict.
And I'll
So
cover
do
for you if you both have a conflict.
All right.
Perfect.
Do you want to amend your, so that you're taking both of these at the same time, the PTA and Orange County School Board Association? Then Drew can poll you for,
They have to be voted on separately, you're saying?
no, I'm saying they can be
Together.
done together.
So the motion is to have Can be our liaison with the PTA and myself for the OCSBA, right? Okay, that's agreeable? All right, Drew, please call roll.
Trustee Barkey,
Yes.
Trustee Williams,
Aye.
Trustee Shaw,
Aye.
Trustee Valdez.
Yes.
Trustee Sparks.
Yes.
All right, thank you for that. So now we're going to proceed to our different information items, it looks like. So are there announcements from the superintendent? Deputy Superintendent?
The announcements from our office are that, as a reminder, the next board meeting is August 2nd. So you will have a reprieve, and your submission deadline is July 19th. Board packets will be delivered July 28th. So we know we've been doing meetings every 2 weeks for the last month, so this will be an actual break. And if there are items that you all are wanting to send forward, then please get those to Drew or myself. We're meeting with the executive committee to dialogue and set the agenda pursuant to the requirements that the board has. And inside of your red folders for the legislation discussion are the the analysis on AB 1352, 665, 1314, and HR 1146. So I just want to call your attention to that. There is also the Orange County Board of Ed at a glance that we typically give you a 4-month. We remind you to please take a look at that so that the things that we put on that calendar are the things that come up every year. But if there are things that are new to this, then we want to get those on there so that board members are aware of what conversations would be coming up. And in September, I would remind you that you have a special board meeting on September 20th. And so I just wanted to call that to your attention and remind you of that. Vice President Sparks is working on that agenda as we speak. So we're hopeful that by next month, we'll have some tentative information to share with the full board.
Just a point of clarification, it doesn't show the date for the September meeting. It's September 6th, correct? For the September, there's just no number next to it. I don't see. unless I'm missing.
yeah,
No,
you're right.
I think it fell off because of the, but
Spacing.
yes,
So the 6th, okay, okay, perfect.
first Wednesday of the month.
Okay.
Thank you for doing that bill analysis. I think that's great and very proactive of you guys, so thank you for that. So we have under next legislative updates. Dr. Williams has discussion on some various pieces of legislation right now. So why don't you lead us off, Ken? SB 1352.
As we know in the record, we have an advocate in Sacramento that's helping guide the board with positions on state legislation. And there's a few pieces of legislation that I just wanted to bring up and get thought and feedback from the board. I also want to bring up under board member comments, and with a consensus and unanimous decision, I can bring it up under legislative updates. There's no action to be taken, it's just discussion. But I did want to talk about the extraordinary case of Assemblyman Jackson's bill, AB 1078. I'll get into details with that. But first, let me start off by just mentioning AB 1352 by Assemblymember Bonta. Again, this is Mrs. Bonta. This is our state Attorney General's wife, who went from the Assembly, was appointed by Governor Newsom to be the state AG. This is a bill that would actually remove elected members of school boards. And it's a very unusual very unusual bill in that this bill, as it's still going through the process, if we go to the second page of our document here, it says the governing board of a school district may remove a member from office by 2/3 vote of membership. I've never seen anything like this where you can remove somebody who was elected to that office by citizens and constituents. And if you happen to fall out of favor by your board members or being a board minority and you have a differing opinion and you represent your constituents differently, it's highly unusual and probably unconstitutional, would not withstand a legal challenge if this were to pass, that one of us could be removed by a 2/3 vote. So I just want to bring that to the attention of our board.
And let me I just noticed, I should have caught this in our planning session. It was listed on the agenda as SB 1352. It should have been AB 1352. It was an assembly bill. Mia Bonta is in the Senate or Assembly?
Where did you get these? Because this is assembly bill
It's
here.
Assembly. She's Assembly. Yeah.
She's
it's
in the
okay.
assembly? Okay.
It is Assembly Bill.
It is assembly bill,
1352.
okay. Okay, moving on to an update on 665. I had a few people in the audience who have made some comments on this, and I just wanted to, again, bring it to the attention of the board. This was introduced by Assemblymember Wendy Carrillo. The principal co-author was Senator Wiener. In June 20th, this passed 9-2. The bill, I think, is very broad and unclear with significant consequences upon our communities and families. AB 665 is not about obtaining medical coverage or aligning healthcare codes. It's really about children that be taken from their parents without a claim of use. You have the language in front of you here, and the criticism of this is that if it was simply about providing mental health care, which our youth do have, and they are receiving it, they could have simply removed one word from the Health and Safety Code 12460, but they didn't. So what this really is this is amending the family code and striking 44 years of guardrails that ensure mental health providers only place the children in a residential shelter if that child is in danger of abuse and harm for themselves. what this bill does, it changes a law that allows a 2-year-old to opt out of their own home if they wanted to. They can invoke parental separation and emancipation without any claim of danger or parental consent. If this bill was to, again, expand mental health care, which we're all in favor of doing for kids who are in need, it could have happened in a different way. And instead, what this law does, it really breaks down the relationship between parents and their children. And it's quite unfriendly to families and children. The dynamics that, even though they may be unhealthy, it allows children to do what they want to do without any claim of abuse or any other reason. So for that reason, I'm personally against 665, and I don't think it is a good bill. I'll wait if there's any comments, if anyone wants to give their opinion before I move on.
No, I would agree with you that I think that we're giving children more discretion than they're fully capable at 12 years old. You know, if a 12-year-old suddenly decides he doesn't want to go home, he can go, you know, be, I don't know, as a ward of the state or whatever they become, goes to a facility. But I don't think a child who was of sound mind would probably do that. And they're too young to make such critical decisions in their lives. And how scary that would be for a parent. Just, you know, today my son or daughter home, and I don't know why. You know, they just decided they just didn't want to be there anymore. So I think it's very, very scary to be doing this.
Yeah,
so thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Yeah, the guardrails of
I would add a comment if I could.
defending. Oh, go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to add a comment, piggybacking off that comment, and that is that it's important to remember that all the literature indicates that the prefrontal cortex is not fully developed until the age of 25, 26 in, you know, our children, until they're young adults. And the prefrontal cortex is the decision-making and the impulse control part of the brain. So it just supports what you were saying, Mary, from a little bit more of a scientific viewpoint that I think is worth noting.
Thank you for being more scientific. Appreciate it.
And more pragmatically, my wife would say it doesn't even matter how old you are. I'm 65, and she'll still say my prefrontal cortex is immature.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just a little bit of humor in the moment. Okay, moving on to Assembly Bill 1314 by Assemblyman Bill Ezeli. You know, there's been a lot that we've talked about and heard a lot from the public comments on this bill. And we appreciate everyone who's coming forward and talked about this. We were elected as people by our constituents on certain values. And one of the values is that we're going to protect the rights of parents to direct the upbringing of their children. There's been research that has been said that kids who are in homes that are adverse and confrontational, it's not healthy for them. But then there's other research that says that parents do provide a significant help and role in the emotional, mental well-being of their children. We all feel that those kids who are depressed, suicidal, have chronic anxiety disorders, or whatever it may be, as a parent and of 4 children, as a grandfather of 13 children, I just can't see where we go wrong as a society if we say that parents need to be removed from the process. This bill says that parents have the right to be involved in the process. And I think for myself, as well as some of the comments, this bill is only about parental rights. It's not a bill that speaks out against anybody because of one particular sexual preference or gender dysphoria or any of those other mental health diagnoses. It just says that the rights of parents are that they get to be involved in the rearing and the upbringing of their children. And that's all this speaks to. I know there's been a lot of comments that have been said that this is a bad bill and that you're a bad person if you support it. And I just don't think if you read the bill that that is true. And so,
I'll make a couple comments, and we had some eloquent comments tonight. I believe it was Diane who spoke to that. And I think we have spoken to it as a board that we're really not anti-anything. We're just pro-kids and pro-parents, and we believe it's important for parents to be in their children's lives. And there's no law that I know of, and I think, Diane, you spoke to that as well, that actually gives children privacy from their parents. Parents are parents, and I think nobody loves their children like their parents. And to remove parents, I think, again, is harming children, and that's not something that we want to see.
very good. Moving on to the last of the legislative updates, and this is going to be a resolution that I'm going to bring to this board. This is a new subject to me, and I thought it was very interesting in talking with Congresswoman Michelle Steele's office. She's very, very concerned about the effect of Communist China upon higher education, and indirectly concerned about Confucius schools, which are in K through 12 education. I did a little bit of research on these Confucius schools, and when you read the bill in its entirety, which is HR 1146, it was introduced by Mr. Crenshaw, Congressman Crenshaw, and Stefanik, and it's being referred to all the various committees, judiciary, committees on education, the workforce, and foreign affairs. But Congresswoman Michelle Steele is very, very concerned about the impact of the Communist Chinese Party upon higher education and its negative influence upon those people in high academic areas. And the connection and the nexus to K through 12 education is the Confucius School. So I'm just in the last phases of finishing this with Congresswoman Steele, and because it's August break, she may be able to come here and give us some insight into her knowledge on this particular bill. So I just wanted to make this an item just so everybody is aware of that. So I wanted to talk about AB 1078, but I'm willing to wait for board member comments because it's not agendized.
Oh, okay. We could do it that way. Thank
Okay.
you. And, my comment, thank you, Dr. Williams, for your diligence and keeping a sharp eye on legislation going on at, our state and even national level. So your passion is very evident. And, I was just going to add that, last week we were speaking with our lobbyist in Sacramento. Dr. Sparks and I were speaking with him, and he'd made the comment that this legislative session in Sacramento, there seems to be quite a number of bills where they're doing this gut and amend type of, massive amending of the bill, and you're 2/3 of the way through the legislative session, and all of a sudden these bills are changing very, radically here and having whole new sections of language inserted and this sort of stuff. And it really diminishes the opportunity for the public to kind of clue into what's going on and comment and call their assembly members and senators as this legislation, we're now in July and all this, and all these things are kind of being done at the, very end of session, and bills are already out of their house of origin and in the other house and being, wildly amended this way. And it's, frankly, I think a very poor way to run the state. If you're going to make big changes to the law, why not introduce that, near the beginning of the session, allow the public to kind of read about it, hear about it, reporters write stories about it, and the public can comment. Agencies or boards like ours can take positions on it, well in advance, but instead it seems to be a fairly haphazard process that we're seeing going on. And that was actually his comment, not my comment, but I thought, with some of these bills, it's a very valid point that we're seeing. So, our committee reports. Do we have any committee reports? Dr. Sparks?
I do not. Thank you.
Nothing from you? Okay. Anyone else? I would make a comment here. I saw the staff put a section on our website about the charter schools that I had mentioned, and I thought that was great. There's now information on, you can at least read the schools that we have chartered as a tab on our page, and with links to that particular school's website and their address and that information. So I want to thank the staff for getting that done. I think that's a great addition. I don't know if you saw the email. I followed up with a request to maybe put the link to our charter school forum that we had maybe on that page. I think would be good there. And I know the Charter School Association has like fact sheets that we can maybe put there, because there always seems to be sometimes some basic misunderstandings with folks about what is a charter school exactly. So I love trying to get that information posted there for people to read, kind of a information page about our charter schools.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Mary.
I would just second that thank you, because just yesterday I had somebody reach out to me with questions about charter schools, and I was able to go there and get all the information that I needed. So thank you. I think it's great. And I love adding some articles. I actually have an article I'll read under board member comments about charter schools. Maybe we could add that one as well. So thank you.
Terrific. Okay, well, speaking of board member comments, why don't you lead us off, Mary? Go ahead.
Okay, so we often talked about charter schools here, and I came across this article, and it's from the Wall Street Journal, so it's bipartisan, there's no partisanship, and it's just plain good fact. It's pretty short, so I would just love to read it to you quickly, just so you know why and I think a lot of my colleagues support charter schools. I truly believe a child should never be trapped by their zip code. I think, talk about not being, diverse and inclusive. I mean, trapping a child by their zip code, I think to do that to our most vulnerable children is unconscionable. So I'm going to read this very short. It's by the editorial board at the Wall Street Journal, and it came out about 2 weeks ago, right before our last meeting. School choice is gaining momentum nationwide, and charter schools are a large part of the movement. A new study shows that these independently run public schools are blowing away their traditional school competition in student performance. Stanford Center for Research on Education Outcomes Credo Report is the third in a series, 2009, 2013, and 2023, tracking charter school outcomes over 15 years. The study is one of the largest ever conducted, covering 2 million charter students in 29 states, New York City and Washington, D.C., and a control group in traditional public schools. Credo's judgment is unequivocal. Most charter schools produce superior student gains despite enrolling a more challenging student population. In reading and math, charter schools provide their students with stronger learning when compared to the traditional public schools. A lot of these are in quotes, and the Credo article is also out. It's much longer. It's 8 pages. I didn't think you guys wanted to hear that. I think this is a great summary. The nationwide gains for charter students were 6 days in math and 16 days in reading. The comparisons in some states are more remarkable. In New York, charter students were 75 days ahead in reading and 73 days in math, compared with traditional public school peers. In Illinois, they were 40 days ahead in reading and 48 in math. In Washington State, 26 days ahead in reading and 39 in math. Those differences can add up to an extra year of learning across an entire elementary education. Credo's first study in 2009 found that charters didn't yield better student outcomes and has long been cited by charter opponents. Teachers' unions often claim charters and choice programs betray public education because they cherry-pick children and fail to serve those in greatest need. Credo's results should also end that discussion. The latest study shows that Black and Hispanic students had some of the largest gains, that they advanced more than their TPS peers by large margins in math and reading. Ditto for children in poverty. Union should also read the section on what Credo calls gap-busting schools, which show Black and Hispanic students succeeding as well as white peers. Credo says this shows that learning gaps between student groups are not structural or inevitable. Not all charters are created equal, and the study shows a growing advantage in results for schools by charter management organizations, which operate multiple schools. This is likely the result of learning curves that can be applied to many locations. 15% of charters underperform their local public school, but lackluster charter closed, unlike failing union schools. This Credo installment covers 2015 to 19, before the pandemic. With each new report, student progress has climbed further, and the long lens of the study shows that charter schools are getting. The Credo report may even underrate the success of charter schools. In the case of Ohio, the Credo methodology dilutes the strong results of brick-and-mortar charter schools by including remote schools and other specialized schools in its results. 2020 Fordham Institute analysis of Ohio charter schools showed strong gains. In a better world, results like this would trigger a movement to expand charters and increase their funding. That won't happen widely as it should because unions will keep up their near monopoly. Washington says only 17 charter schools serving about 4,700 students, well under its legal cap of 40 schools, according to the Mountain States Policy Center. The real reason the unions object to more is that charter learning proves there's no excuse for failing children.
I would just like to
Thank
add-
you for indulging me. I just had to share that with everyone. If anyone wants a written copy, you know where to find me.
Could I just add a comment to that, Mary? Thank you for reading that. And that is, in Orange County, we actually have a couple of schools that we authorize that are gaps in that report. The Oxford Preparatory Academy and Spring Charters are the ones that I know of. There may be more as well, but just right here in Orange County, we have some gap busters, and I'm sure we'll have more down the line.
Nina, exactly charters do now in Orange County, so I don't misquote.
I couldn't give you the exact number.
Javier knows. 24 that we have
Yes,
chartered.
24 under the county. Thank you. I knew
41
it
total.
was around. Thank you. I knew it was around 40, but I didn't want to misquote. So
I'm sorry, I thought you were asking countywide charters.
Okay, yeah. So we have 41 in Orange County. By the county, which often means that the district has denied them, so they've come to us on appeal.
Thank you for those comments, Trustee Barkey. Dr. Williams?
Okay, moving on with some of the legislative updates and opinions here. And the bill that I think really should be thinking about is Assembly Bill 1078, which was originally by Assemblyman Jackson, who is a former Riverside County school trustee who was elected to his district, Riverside. And his original bill 1078 was introduced and was really quite radical in its language. Basically, it was removing the ability of locally elected leaders to create their and select their curriculum and textbooks, and it was really quite draconian. In fact, it was so bad, Jackson's peers, the Democratic majority in the Assembly Committee, gutted his bill, and he accepted the amendments, and it was moved on by, that was a vote of 5-2. And so after that, then after that committee, it went into suspense file. It was referred to as the suspense file on May 17th, and it went to eventually to our good local state senator, Josh Newman, who is the Education Committee chair there in the Senate. And a strange thing happened along that way. Normally and typically, when a bill is amended, especially by your own political party, in the committee of origin, and the amendments are accepted by that author, that usually goes on to the next up, which is to the Senate side and to the Senate Education, and it goes through the process and has to go to Appropriations Committee if there's involving with money. But a strange thing happened on the way to the Senate Education Committee that is very atypical, and it rarely occurs. But I think it really shows the political limitless powers that the political party in power in Sacramento feels they have, in which Senator Josh Newman allowed the author to remove those amendments that were put in there by his peers in the Assembly Committee, to remove it and to change it so it really has the same form as it was originally amended a month ago. And strangely enough, that happened all in the last week. And we didn't know about it until like last Thursday and Friday, so it couldn't get on the agenda officially. And so here I am under board member comments talking about a bill that went through in the atypical process that now is back into intended outcomes, which is to remove the local control of education. And what it does, it empowers, in fact, there will probably be an article coming out on Tony Thurman's task force on this, because he's now going to be like the Nazi police going to each individual school district. If they don't adopt what he wants to adopt, they get their name put on a list, and that list is the bad boy list. And so it's quite troubling, this bill. I wrote and submitted an article to the Orange County Register, and it should be online and perhaps published this week. But I think if I can just talk about what I wrote, I think it may make sense and why this bill is so troubling. So our founding fathers believed in the core and essential principles that advances our Republican form of government that's been going on for the last 2.5 centuries, because they believed in public education. At that time, education was private in many instances, or religious. Public education was not really something that was available. But our founding fathers knew that in a thriving nation, they needed to have education and awareness of its citizenry for our country to flourish. So with that, when you begin to have self-government, you begin to have people that are educated, you're able to pass that baton on to the next generation. And unfortunately, this bill stops that baton from being passed on, because it removes locally elected school board members from their primary purpose of governing locally. And we all know that the understanding of local control of education is that those who are nearest to the central part of the community that's being controlled knows it best and can make the best decision. So, and that's a concept that both Republicans and Democrats have traditionally recognized and revered for many, many decades. So I think when you begin to look at this bill, though, we begin to see that trust between local community members making the best decisions that are closest to the communities they live in. And it's all because of reaction, I think, with Temecula Valley, when they wanted to do something else that wasn't politically correct, and they didn't select the correct curricula. And Governor Newsom, I think, and Tim, maybe you can correct me, he said that we're watching you, Temecula Valley. I think that was the words of our governor. So it's troubling, this bill, how it was presented. The peers in Sacramento of Assemblyman Jackson said, no, this is a bad bill, we're going to change it. They gutted it, and now it's reappeared because of the permissive perspective of the Senate Education Committee member, Josh Newman. So I wanted to bring that to our attention, because from this, if this does pass, it's all of a sudden, by the way, it's put on high alert. It's a matter of urgency. It was gutted, then put on in the freezer for a while, then brought out, and now it's a matter of urgency. So it is quite troubling, and I think we're going to see more and more of it. Mr. President, do you know the outcome of today's Senate vote on this bill?
I'm afraid I don't.
Okay.
I do know as an urgency item, it would require ultimately a 2/3 vote in both the Senate and the Assembly. So he made his life a little more difficult by making it go into effect immediately, as opposed to waiting to January 1st of next year.
So it went from the freezer
right?
to the neutron bombs center, a matter of urgency, which is really interesting. This bill creates new general fund liabilities. It creates, actually the superintendent, our county superintendent is now empowered to go out to the individual school districts to make sure that they're doing what the State Board of Education wants them to do. And if the school district is on the naughty list, they get to be put on a website that we will soon be having, an area where the school board is out of compliance with the State Department of Education. So It's sad that we're going to see the concept of local control of education that we once enjoyed in the state being lost by those overachievers in Sacramento who do not revere the concept of local control of education. Our founding fathers would scorn the Sacramento legislators who are allowing for the demise of local control of education. And with that, I will conclude my comments.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Trustee Valdez, do you have any board member comments?
I do. So telling everyone a little story. This month, I was sitting in a restaurant in Santa Ana, and a very nice Latino woman who speaks mostly Spanish came up to me and she said, I recognize you. And I said, I'm sorry, ma'am, I've met thousands of people in my, political career, and I don't remember. And she goes, you came to my door when I lived in Tustin, looking for my vote when you ran for city council in 2020, and then I did remember. And she told me that she had moved to Santa Ana, and she has 2 young kids, and she's really unhappy with the school that she has in Santa Ana. And I told her, well, I now sit on the Orange County Board of Education. And, she proceeded to tell me that she honestly believes she has no option with respect to the school that she sends her kids. And I told her, I needed to be careful because you may be coming before the board at some point, but I proceeded to tell her you could try and get a transfer. You could even go try and request a transfer back to Tustin. And she got really emotional and really upset that she did not know that she had those options at all. And, so my request in my board member comments is another request to the staff, because I know I have mentioned it to everyone here before. This type of information is not readily known by. I'm not going to talk about anyone else's constituency, but I am firmly of the belief that the folks in my area, do not know that they have these options. They absolutely do not know. We need to make a much better effort in an outreach to reach the constituency of Area 1 to explain that these folks do have options. They are not limited to the school that they are assigned to, that they can ask for a transfer within the district, outside the district. We can tell them what our board policy is, with respect to approving that. We can, make a decision as to whether we want to include that information. But I think specifically an outreach needs to be done. More work on our website, both in English and in Spanish, needs to be performed so that people like this, excuse me, very nice young lady with 2 kids understands that they do have options.
George, I don't think it's exclusive to your district. I think it's countywide, if not statewide. And I would recommend that you do an op-ed and get the word out.
Well, that's brilliant.
With all of the particulars.
I agree with you, George. I think a lot of people just, if this woman's living in Santa Ana, there's a number of charter schools that are also going to be nearby her. There's because we have so many there too. So, okay, Dr. Sparks, you still awake?
I am fading a little bit.
Is it about 3 a.m. there now? What?
It's almost 4 in the morning, so I'm fading a little bit. So I'm going to pass on my comments for today and save them for August.
Well, you look good, so.
Well, thank you. I'm definitely fading.
For my comments, I want to, just here, thank a few people. Obviously, the voter 4th district who allowed me the great honor to serve here on the County Board of Education. I wanted to thank Dr. Sparks for her tremendous leadership as president of our board for the last year, and thank my colleagues for allowing me to serve this coming year as board president. It's a distinct honor, and I'm really excited about it. And I suppose at my funeral, someone's going to say he was the president of the County Board of Education. And hopefully that's very far in the future, but this is going to be definitely a highlight of my life. So I really appreciate that, and the kindness of my colleague board. I've really come to just love these guys up here. They're my colleagues, but my friends, and just enjoy coming every month, seeing everybody here on the staff, and having a good time serving and hopefully making a difference here in Orange County. Let's see, do we have any more public comments?
You know, can I make one more board comment? I just forgot.
I'll
I just
allow it.
wanted to call out Garden Grove Unified School District. I visited them last week for cutting of their fabulous new track and field at Santiago High School. It's state-of-the-art beautiful. I know they have 2 other schools that are going to be doing that, but kudos to them. It's beautiful. I got to watch the football team and the cheer squad and everybody run out on their beautiful new track and field, so it's nice to see that happening.
Terrific. Thank you. And we didn't have any more public comments? No? Okay, I think we're all done. Seeing that, we will
Make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Motion,
To
second.
adjourn.
Second.
All right, we'll see you August 2nd.
Sparks. Bye.